Imagine finding out that you have inherited a restaurant from your great-aunt halfway around the world. Intending to sell it, you traveled down there, only to be immersed into the lives of the people over there, interrupting your plan to sell and leave. This is the tale of Caroline Wilson, who may end up finding out that the workers will do all it takes to save their restaurant from being sold off. At the beginning of the movie Romance on the Menu, the opening scene takes us to Laboratory Restaurant. The place is teeming with people, and Denise Wilson happily welcomes the customers. Meanwhile, Caroline is in the kitchen busy supervising the chefs to ensure that everything comes out as planned. She doesn't want another embarrassing review that is likely to drop the rating of her restaurant, because such a situation happened earlier. Denise enters to check on her daughter, Caroline, who assures her that she has everything under control. She did not want her to worry one bit, and she prides herself on being capable of handling the kitchen. Denise also informs her that Nathaniel, her ex-fiancé, is around hoping she will want to say hi, but she dismisses the idea. She doesn't want any distractions, so she tells her mom that she will call him later so as not to make her worry. Caroline proceeds with her cooking to the amazement of her mom, who admires her dedication and professionalism. Meanwhile, a man proposes to his girlfriend using the dish Caroline prepared, and everyone claps in awe. But Caroline seems oblivious to the romantic moment that keeps everyone lost in the moment. She is disappointed that the lady didn't even perceive the aroma of her dish instead. This earns her a surprised look from her chefs, who can't believe her concern in such a romantic moment. From among the crowd, Nathaniel looks at her longingly, but she dismisses it as she is not interested in his advances. After the day's job, Caroline tells her mom how disappointed she is that the lady who was proposed to earlier didn't even perceive the scent she spent so long perfecting. Her mom gets disappointed with that. She expects her daughter to be more romantically inclined, especially with Nathaniel doting on her, but Caroline tells her she isn't interested in romance at the moment. As they are talking, her mom gets shocking news. Caroline just inherited her Aunt Doreen's cafe in Australia. Caroline can't believe her ears. This means a new path and journey for her, but because of how hard it is to run their current restaurant, Caroline didn't want to keep the cafe her aunt left for her. She has no intention of going to Australia because she is concerned about the low reviews they are getting as well as the inspector coming. But her mom tells her that's why she should go since they have a month and the trip will help clear her head. Though she has her worries about being a perfectionist, her mom assures her everything will be fine. Later that evening, Nathaniel comes to visit her at her restaurant after hanging around for a while. Seeing that he is impressed with the current state of the restaurant, she reminds him of when he didn't believe in her dreams before she started the restaurant. He apologizes and blames it on being so young and short-sighted, then invites her to go grab a drink with him. She tells him she won't, due to some family business she needs to tend to in Australia, and he agrees to talk when she's back. Caroline gets to Australia, and as she is admiring a dog in front of the cottage she will stay at, a guy named Simon walks up and introduces himself. He wonders what brings her to Lemon Myrtle Cove because they rarely get visitors. She tells him it's business and he tells her to call her if she experiences any difficulties while in the cottage. She settles in and finds her way to the cafe. The cafe is busy and she admires it as she looks around impressed. She takes note of everything around her as she orders a variety of food that surprised Beth, the waitress. She tastes each dish and tries to draw inspiration from them for her restaurant back home. While she is at it, Simon walks up to her. He asks her about her review of the meals and she finds fault in every dish she ordered. Being a professional, she explains how the meals aren't tasteful and how the menu can be tweaked. She says all this with confidence without knowing what's coming next. Simon tells her to talk to the cook, but she even expresses how he may have no taste in the recipe. At that moment, a lady who is the manager called Marla calls out to Simon that there is an order. This is when she realizes that Simon is the cook she has been talking down on. Caroline feels so embarrassed and uneasy about the encounter. Back at home, Dale the lawyer comes over. He expresses his condolences about her aunt. He tells her that the realtor is out of town but he has gotten a potential buyer for the cafe. The buyer intends to turn the cafe into one of his chain of racing car-themed restaurants. Caroline is not impressed with this, but this is the only option he has and she agrees to sell it to him. However, there are so many issues with the restaurant and she needs to fund the repair. She asks that this be done quickly as she needs to get back home. Later on, she calls her mom to update her on the progress of the deal with the cafe, happy that she will be home soon. Her mom then informs her that Nathaniel called, but she skipped the conversation. She just doesn't want to hear anything about Nathaniel. When the cafe closed for the day, Caroline and Dale go to the cafe to formally introduce Caroline and her intention with the place. They are shocked she didn't introduce herself earlier, and when she eventually tells them of her plan to sell it off and go back to New York, they are even more shocked and sad. The staffs are sad with this decision and even Caroline feels uneasy in their presence. This isn't how she anticipates that it will turn out to be. She expects a smooth discussion but she feels quite disturbed about her action. After she left, Marla meets with Simon and encourages him to speak with her about her decision. This is for him to tell her what the Seagull restaurant means to Doreen and the value it holds to the people. Moreover, the restaurant means a lot to them and it feels as if their life is being taken from them. Caroline is on the phone when she sees Simon coming out from the beach all soaked up. She couldn't help but stare longingly and nervously at him. As he approaches, she feels so uncomfortable in his presence. Seeing an opportunity to get her to change her mind, he offers to teach her some of Doreen's recipes, but she isn't interested in that. She has been trying to get technicians to come and repair the restaurant, but so far she has had no luck with any. Suddenly she remembers that Simon fixes the cottage she is staying at, and that means he can fix the restaurant as well. Excitedly, she asks him, but he declines. After begging him, he accepts on the condition that while he is repairing, she will fill in for cooking at the restaurant. She has no choice but to accept the deal, so she can sell the restaurant and say goodbye to Australia for good. They meet the next morning as early as 4 a.m. and go fishing. She didn't expect this, but she has no choice. Then Caroline remembers her childhood moment for a minute right there. Soon she feels that she has caught something, but it is just a hat and they laugh at it. Caroline asks Simon to take her picture. As they are taking pictures together, she suddenly feels attracted to him in a way. This makes her nervous around him till they are done fishing. Back at the restaurant, Simon asks if Caroline can handle the cooking while he is off repairing, and she says yes again. She doesn't have a choice because she has to sell off and leave as soon as possible, so she's down for anything. Meanwhile, Marla has noticed the changes in Caroline's involvement in the restaurant's business. This makes her happy because she commends Simon for wooing Caroline for the sake of the restaurant. Simon tries telling her that what is happening isn't what she thinks, but Marla thinks he is being modest and leaves abruptly, not waiting to hear any further explanation. For that day, Caroline begins work in the kitchen and Beth commends her, saying she will also like to try cooking someday. Simon gives a progress report to Caroline and tells her that everything will be set for her to return the next week. This makes her happy and they also stare at each other awkwardly. Later that night, Caroline decides to bake since she is having insomnia. Unfortunately, it gets burnt and this triggers the smoke alarm. As Simon closes and is about to leave, he hears the alarm and quickly runs to her aid. She tells him she's experimenting with some recipe but she can't find a balance. Simon advises her to take things easy because sometimes less is more, but she did not want to admit it because she prides herself as a professional cook. Simon tells her about the progress of the repair and is about to ask her a question, but her mom's call comes in. She is eager to know what he wants to ask, but he urges her to pick up her mom's call. As she picks up, she suspects there is someone there and she asks if it is the handsome cook, indicating that they have spoken about him. Caroline gets so embarrassed because Simon is there, and he will get an idea of what has been going on and also get to know that she finds him attractive. But he acts as if nothing is wrong, says hi to her mom, and says goodbye. Caroline's mom informs her that the inspection officers will be coming the following week. If they opt out from the inspection, they'll have to wait till the following year. The next day, Caroline goes to the restaurant to tell Simon of the latest developments. She needs the repairs to be fast-tracked, so she won't have to come back to Australia. Just then, they get word of some impromptu orders and she needs to take over from Simon while he finishes the roof. As Simon is working, Marla comes to him on the progress of the task she gave him. Simon tries explaining to her that he isn't working on any plan of convincing her, but they are interrupted by Caroline. Marla seizes the opportunity to push it to Caroline that she has plans with Simon, all in a bid to get her with him, so he can further convince her. Just then, Dale comes in to ask the same question. They all don't want to lose the restaurant. Meanwhile, Simon and Caroline go clamming, and in the process, she falls on him, creating some sort of chemistry. He tells her that the dog, Spatch, was Doreen's dog and tells her how he showed up. Then when Doreen passed, he adopted him. Simon tells her about himself and how he moved to the town. She is surprised that he can leave a big city like Melbourne for such a small town, but he is perfectly fine with it. They have fun till they leave the place. Back at the restaurant, he asks her if he can take her out that evening and she agrees. He takes her to the boat he now stays in after renting the cottage out to her. She gets surprised and fascinated at the same time. Caroline talks about the difference in their personalities and world. She comes from New York, where everyone is mostly busy and racing against time, and she feels that's how life should be. But here Simon is content and seeking the same set of people almost every day. But she appreciates the serenity that the town portrays. Caroline further talks about missing the feeling she has when she started as a chef. She ventured into the business to serve and make people happy, but it has gradually turned into a chore. She feels no connection again and she misses that. Then Simon advises her to consider another approach. She shouldn't be too focused on finding the joy in her work. Rather, she should let the joy find her. The moment gets so intense that they almost lock their lips in a passionate kiss, but Caroline holds back because she feels that is wrong and apologizes. Simon suggests they get ice cream and he takes her to Marla's place. As they are sneaking around, Marla walks in, thinking it is the kids, but she gets surprised to see Caroline and Simon at such a late hour. Just then, Dale walks in and the situation gets super awkward. Why is Dale in Marla's place at such a late hour? Marla and Dale are so embarrassed. The next day, Simon tells Caroline that the wiring of the restaurant needs replacing and will affect the schedule of their repair. This makes her downcast as she is on a tight schedule. Later, she sees him repainting the restaurant sign and is confused. She did not see the need for that when she will sell it off soon, and she tells him this. At that point, Simon decides to make his case with her. He pleads with her not to sell the restaurant, that he can run it perfectly. Caroline is surprised with his suggestion, but she is not going to give in to his request. Beth informs Caroline of dinner the next day, and Caroline says she will come with Doreen's signature pie. Soon, they get into an argument about her making Doreen's signature pie in front of Beth, and that gets Beth confused. What she doesn't know is that this argument is not just about pie alone, but it is about the fate of the restaurant. Later that night, Caroline speaks with her mom on a video call about her argument with Simon concerning Doreen's pie. She is so worked up speaking about Simon, and this comes as a shocker to her mom, who doesn't feel such a matter will get to Caroline. She advises her to speak with him and try to sort things out. As the delivery truck arrives, her mom notifies her, and she is shocked that Caroline didn't pester her with questions on the orders to be delivered. This shows that she is gradually letting go, unlike before. After the call, Caroline vows on making the beet meat pie, even though she will still speak with him. The next day, on her way to the picnic, she meets Marla and Dale. They look all loved up and are no longer hiding that they have a thing going. Even when Simon meets up with the three and compliments Marla's dress, she attributes it to having someone to look lovely for, which is Dale. Later, Dale informs Caroline that the inspector will be there the next morning and everything she wants will be set. Marla and Dale go ahead to dance to a song. As Simon talks about how he is done with the roof repairs, Caroline asks that they don't talk about the restaurant for the rest of the evening. She did not want anything to make the evening unpleasant. As wants to ask her to dance, Beth cones along, whisking Caroline away. At the picnic, Beth appreciates everyone for coming and talks about how it used to be when Doreen was still around. Caroline is fascinated with how loved her aunt is by all of them. They all raise a glass to Doreen. Later, Simon eats the pie she bakes, and he tells her it is good. Caroline also eats the cheesecake he made and realized he used her recipe. She is surprised that it tastes so good. Marla asks if it is on the menu now, and they all laugh because Caroline will soon sell the restaurant off. Later that night, Simon and Caroline eventually get to dance. She also dances with Dale and finds herself lost in the fun and love they all shared. At that moment, she feels she is part of their small family and forgets about New York for a minute. Simon gives her a surprise, and it is the shell they had picked at the beach before. She appreciates him but is already lost as she looks longingly at him. Their chemistry is so intense at that moment, only for them to be interrupted. Beth announces to her that a guy claiming to be her fiancé is looking for her. Caroline is shocked, and just then Nathaniel walks in, calling her baby. Caroline is lost for words, and Simon looks disappointed. She tries explaining to him that there is a misunderstanding, but he walks away heartbroken. As he leaves, she turns to Nathaniel and asks him why he is there. She walks away from him angrily because they just ruined the moment she was having with Simon with his unannounced presence. He runs after her and tells her that he is in the neighborhood. Meanwhile, it is in the next country. When they are in the cottage, he confesses that he misses her. She looks at him dumbfounded. He holds her hand and tells her he misses everything about her. Just then Simon comes to the house, but he overhears her telling him that she misses him too. In that instant, he drops the package he came with on her front porch and leaves. Caroline asks Nathaniel exactly why he wants her back, and he says she is doing a great job with the restaurant back in New York. This makes Caroline infuriated, and she yanks her hand away from him angrily. He only wants her back after he has seen how she transformed the restaurant. He is only after the fame and gain of her sweat and years of toiling. She tells him off, and as he leaves, she sees the package that Simon dropped on her front porch. As she wants to pick it up, she hears Simon talking to someone in the restaurant. She approaches him feeling guilty and tries to apologize for what happened earlier, and also to tell him that it is not what he thinks it is. But before she can speak, Simon tells her that all repairs have been made and her restaurant is ready for inspection the next day. He also tells her that she doesn't owe him anything. This hurts Caroline deeply, and even Spatch the dog feels her pain and chooses to stay with her as Simon leaves. Caroline sits outside with the dog, looking through the package Simon had dropped earlier. It is her aunt's cookbook and picture, including the one she took with her aunt when she was little. At that moment, she misses her aunt. She suddenly feels heavy within and starts talking with the dog. Her mission in the little town is accomplished, but suddenly she feels no urge to go ahead with her plan and leave. She has grown so attached to the town, the restaurant, the people, and most especially the cook, Simon. Deep in thought, a message pops up on her phone. It is from Beth, appreciating her and Simon for the dinner. She also sent a picture she took of them smiling. This further gets Caroline all up in her feelings, and she stares at the restaurant, thinking of how she has decided to sell what means a lot to these people. The next day, Dale comes to meet her for the inspection. Caroline appears cheerful and asks if the others have set up at the restaurant, and Dale says yes. She then tells him enthusiastically that she has changed her mind and she is not selling. Dale gets shocked. He can't believe his ears. Could this be the same person that was adamant about selling the restaurant off even before she got there? Caroline says she believes that, just as Simon says, Marla is capable of running the restaurant smoothly, and all she needs to do is come and check on the progress periodically. Dale gets so excited, and Caroline heads over to the restaurant to tell them of the good news. As she gets to the restaurant, she stops in her tracks as she overhears Marla scolding Simon for not successfully carrying out the duty of convincing Caroline not to sell. This makes her so sad and heartbroken. So, what she thinks she has with Simon has been a setup all along. He did all those to convince her and not because he cared for her. She has been played all along for their gain. She removes the necklace he gave her and drops it on a shelf. Caroline clears her throat and walks in, then she announces that Dale and the inspector will soon be there, after which she will sell the restaurant and leave for New York. The look of disappointment is quite evident on all their faces. Beth even asks if she can talk to the new owner about their jobs, but she tells her that she is flying back to New York that same night. Simon instructs them to get on with their job for the day. They are not shutting down yet. As they all leave, Caroline and Simon remain. She sternly asks him to give him a last walk through the restaurant to ascertain that everything is in order, and that there is no one trying to stop the sale. He angrily agrees. He goes ahead to show the pantry, but Marla has another plan. As soon as they walk in, she shuts the door from outside. Simon tells her to open the door, but she says he must convince her not to sell the restaurant. Caroline threatens to call her lawyer, but it isn't working. Even Beth is in on Marla's plan. Seeing things are not working, Caroline believes that Dale will soon be there with the inspector, and she will be let out. Then she angrily tells Simon that his plan didn't work out. He is shocked and tells her he had no plan. He figures out that she had overheard Marla earlier and tells her that all his efforts with her are not a plan to get her to change her mind. Caroline is so angry and even tells him to stay away from her side of the pantry. In anger, something falls on her head and Simon laughs at her. Angrily, she throws something at him and they continue this while accusing themselves of playing each other. Caroline accuses him of trying to woo her for the restaurant, and he accuses her of hiding the fact that she has a fiancé. She tells him that he used to be her fiancé, but he isn't anymore. Simon stops throwing stuff at her, but she continues and accuses him of leading her on and pretending that he likes her. Dale and the inspector walk in on them in the awkward situation and leave immediately. Simon tells her that all he did had no pretense or ulterior motive. After the inspector leaves, Caroline calls all the staff for a meeting. To them, this is a farewell meeting and they need to be on the lookout for another job. However, she has other plans. She asks Simon what he thinks of officially becoming the head chef and what Marla thinks of managing the restaurant. They think that the new owner has decided to employ them, but Caroline tells them that she intends on keeping the restaurant. And so far, they've been running the business smoothly. Beth hugs and appreciates her. Marla apologizes for what she has done as well, but Caroline says it makes her confident that the restaurant is in good hands. The others leave, and Simon and Caroline are left alone once again. She apologizes for accusing him earlier, and they settle their differences. Caroline returns to New York for the inspection. She approves the dish prepared by Molly. Clearly, her trip has changed her and made her less rigid. She now trusts Molly's expertise. The inspectors come around and approve of the place. At the end of the day, her mom brings her a dish and tells her she appreciates the new her. As she proceeds to eat the meal, she notices the necklace Simon gave her. While she is caught up with her surprise, Simon walks in. He confesses his feelings for her and asks her to be his girlfriend regardless of the distance between them. Happily, she accepts his proposal, to the amazement of her mom and their staff. Kindly subscribe and like for more videos. Thank you for watching.